It's a 1965 Harley-Davidson Pacer. I was raised on horses and old farm tractors. Always enjoyed working on the tractors, but I don't have space for a tractor. Old cars, I don't have room for that, so I thought a motorcycle would be a way to start and do something to keep my hands busy and get away from work a little bit. And I like the simpler lines, the fact that it's magneto, there's no battery, and it's days like this where you just get to go out and ride and put my son on the back and we go fishing. Kind of gives you a chance to get away. Not that I've got a terrible, stressful life or anything like that, but if I was going to get a motorcycle, it would be something that had an old look to it, an old feel to it, and was physically as old as I could, as old as I could afford, and something that just didn't feel like it was off the shelf and felt like it had a previous life, and it did, and it's got these nicks and dings and scratches that I have no idea. I've got theories of what happened, and that's the fun part, but it's got its own story, and I hope that I'm just helping continue that story, and maybe my son will continue the story on down the road or whatnot, But come on up. I call them puppets because I guess that's kind of where my interest really stemmed from. Some early puppet shows I saw in college. There was a guy, Mark Fox and Anthony Loonsman, and they were in Cincinnati at the time where I was at school, and on their Friday night monthly art events, they would do these performances on the sidewalk, and you saw these sets that were hand built and these puppets that were carved, and they were this whole other texture, and they had sounds and smells. And then you go back to the studio and you work on a painting, and you're just kind of, and you're like, these characters could be somewhere else. And then eventually the stuff evolved into this, but it incorporates all the stuff I loved in school and what I loved learning: woodworking and sculpture and fabricating and drawing and painting and concepting and photography. And there's brass parts. There's the wire. It's rusty, so I straightened it out and saved it. So this is like the gear drawer. Springs, I don't even know where these springs came from now. These are beautiful. These come off typewriters, the old heavy black typewriters. They're like the rubber feet. I use them for seats. They look like black leather seats. Lenses, watch parts, knobs, tires, wheels, fasteners. These are the mechanisms for when you hit the key. I don't even remember how they swing. A lot of times people want to buy a print because to me that's the finished product. Really, the puppets are just kind of part of the process, but that photograph is the painting, I guess, or the world. Because when you see the puppet out of that world, to me, it takes it out of context and you kind of lose a little bit of that. But as an object, they can become really beautiful too. I've done things where it's called kit bashing, where you take plastic models and like 3 different airplanes, and you basically mash them together and you create an airplane that's got that same era and that same feel, but it's got like 6 wings instead of 2, and it just takes this whole other feeling. And that's kind of what I did with this, was just kind of modified it a little bit, changed it a little bit, but kept the real essence of it, and it tried to build him to fit the arc of the tank and the way he leans and the way his helmet's built, and so they're really kind of one unit. And there's another one over here, and he just stemmed from a sketch, and he's more like, this is more scratch building, I guess. Then I'd find photos of vintage bikes that hadn't been restored, so I could kind of see how the rust lays on the fender, and how much of the paint actually shows through, and how much do you rub off, and a lot of it's nonsense. It makes there's just a lot of wires that run around. enjoy that. I enjoy just old man putting around. That's kind of about my speed, really. And I've read something where that it's not how fast you go, it's how you go fast, or something like that, you know. And I think there's a little bit to be said in that. But you know, riding a bike like this, you're not really a daredevil. You know, you barely pass farm tractors or bicyclists on this thing. So there's, you know, but there's the thrill of it, you know, I suppose, in a small way.